My name is Hannah Whitmore. I am 34 years old, and 3 days before my sister's wedding, I found out I wasn't invited. Not from her. Not from my parents. From the seating chart. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was sitting at my kitchen island, laptop open, reviewing the final catering invoice I had just paid in full. $42,700. I remember the number because I stared at it for a long time after pressing confirm. $42,000 for a wedding I wasn't allowed to attend. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't suspicious. I was helping. That's what I had been doing for 11 months straight. Helping. When the email from the wedding planner came in, I assumed it was another vendor question. Instead, it was the finalized guest list and seating arrangement for review and approval. My name wasn't there. At first, I thought it was a formatting mistake. Maybe I was seated with the bridal party. Maybe family was listed separately. I scrolled once, twice, 3 times. My parents were at table 1. My cousin Rebecca, who once borrowed money from me and never repaid it, was at table 3. My mother's tennis friends had an entire table. Even Daniel, my ex-boyfriend from college, the one who cheated on me, he was apparently a close family friend. But me? Nothing. No Hannah Whitmore. No +1. No mention. Just an empty space where I thought I belonged. I stared at the screen long enough for it to blur. Then my phone buzzed. It was a group chat notification titled Bridal Emergency. My sister Olivia had written, "Final head count is done." So excited. Almost there. Almost there. I typed, erased, typed again. Finally, I wrote privately to her. "Hey, I just saw the seating chart. I think my name might be missing." 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then appeared again. Her response came 5 minutes later. "Oh, yeah, about that. About that." I read those 2 words over and over, trying to understand how 11 months of financial support could become about that. She called me instead of texting the rest. Her voice sounded irritated, not guilty, not embarrassed. I remember standing up without realizing it, pacing across my kitchen. "I was going to tell you," she said quickly. "Just had to make some adjustments." "Adjustments?" I repeated. "The venue has a strict 120-person limit." I almost laughed, because I had personally upgraded the venue from 90 to 150 guests when she fell in love with the larger ballroom. I signed that contract. I transferred that deposit. "I thought you wanted something small and intimate," she continued. "Small and intimate, with 120 guests. And I'm not intimate?" I asked. Silence. Then she sighed, the way she used to when we were kids, and I wouldn't let her borrow my clothes. "It's just complicated, Hannah. Complicated. That word again. It might be awkward." "Awkward." My voice cracked. "Olivia, I paid for your dress. I know, I paid for the venue. I know. I paid for the flowers, the catering, the photographer, your honeymoon flights." "I know," she snapped. That was the first time her voice broke. Not with gratitude, with frustration. "You always do this," she said. "Do what?" "You make everything about what you've done." I felt something shift inside my chest. "I did do it," I said quietly, and that was the problem. You see, I had always done it. When Olivia dropped out of grad school, I paid off her student loans so our parents wouldn't find out. When she maxed out 2 credit cards planning an engagement party she couldn't afford, I covered them. When she cried because she couldn't afford the wedding she deserved, I told her not to worry, because I could afford it. Because I loved her, because I thought that's what big sisters did. But somewhere between the venue tasting and the bridal shower, something changed. She stopped asking me for opinions, stopped copying me on vendor emails, stopped inviting me to fittings. I told myself she was stressed. I told myself brides get weird. I didn't tell myself the truth. The truth was this. I had become the bank, not the sister. And banks don't get seats at the table. "Is this because of Mark?" I asked. Another silence. Longer this time. Mark, her fiancé, the man who once told me at Thanksgiving that I was intimidating. The man who asked what I did for a living and then joked, "Must be nice not having kids to spend money on." The man who never quite looked me in the eye. "It's not about him," she said too quickly. That meant it was. "He just thinks it would be better if you weren't there. There, at my sister's wedding, the wedding I financed." "Better for who?" I whispered. "For everyone." And that was when I realized something devastating. She wasn't ashamed. She wasn't conflicted. She had already decided. I was an inconvenience, a reminder, a comparison She didn't want standing in the room while she walked down the aisle, because I was single, because I was financially stable, because I didn't need saving, because in her mind I always made her feel smaller. And instead of standing beside me, she chose to remove me. "Don't make this dramatic," she said softly. "You'll understand one day." One day. Understand what? That love is conditional? That generosity expires? That if you're too strong, too independent, too generous, you become disposable? I didn't cry. Not while she was on the phone. I just said, "Okay." She seemed relieved. "I knew you'd be mature about it." Mature, as if swallowing humiliation was a personality trait. We hung up. I stood in my kitchen for a long time. Then I opened my laptop again. And for the first time in 11 months, I started reading the contracts, carefully. Every clause, every cancellation policy, every payment schedule. And that's when I saw something interesting. Very interesting. Because apparently, the wedding wasn't as finalized as Olivia thought. And the money? It hadn't fully settled yet. The florist required 14 days' notice for a full refund. The caterer allowed cancellation up to 72 hours prior, minus a 10% administrative fee. The photographer had a non-refundable retainer. The venue contract, however, the venue was different. If the event host, me, withdrew in writing before final confirmation of the headcount, the ballroom would be released. The deposit would be forfeited, but the remaining balance would not be charged. And the remaining balance was the largest payment of all. I checked the date. Final confirmation deadline tomorrow, 5 p.m. I looked at the clock on my stove. 4:12 p.m., 24 hours. I sat down slowly. For 11 months, I had been careful not to miss a single deadline, a single installment, a single invoice. I had been reliable, organized, generous. Now I was going to be precise. I did not act impulsively. I drafted an email. Subject, event cancellation, Whitmore wedding reservation. I read it 5 times before sending. Professional, polite, legally clean, no emotion, no explanation, just facts. I copied my attorney, not because I thought it would become messy, but because I had learned something in business. People behave differently when they know someone is watching. I pressed send at 4:37 p.m. Then I moved to the caterer. Then the florist. Then the rental company providing the imported Italian linens Olivia had insisted were non-negotiable. One by one, confirmations came in. Cancellation received. Refund processing. Contract terminated. By 6:10 p.m., the wedding no longer existed. The ballroom was empty. The tables were unassigned. The cake order was void. The string quartet was released. 11 months of planning disappeared in under 2 hours. I expected to feel powerful. Instead, I felt calm. Not vengeful, not hysterical, just finished. My phone rang at 7:02 p.m., Olivia. I let it ring once, twice, 3 times. Then I answered. "What did you do?" she demanded. No greeting, no hesitation. "What are you referring to?" I asked evenly. "Don't do that," she snapped. "The venue just called Mark." Ah, so they hadn't called her. They called him. Interesting. "They said the event host withdrew," she continued, voice shaking now. "They said the contract holder canceled." "I did," I said. Silence. Thick, heavy. "You can't do that." "I can," I replied. "The contract is under my name. You're ruining my wedding." I almost corrected her. No, I corrected her. "I canceled the wedding I was paying for," I said. "You're welcome to plan your own." She gasped, like I had slapped her. "You're punishing me." "No," I said quietly. "I'm respecting your boundary." She didn't understand at first. "You said it would be better if I weren't there," I continued. "I assumed that included my money." Her breathing became uneven. "You're being cruel." That word again, cruel. It's fascinating how quickly generosity becomes cruelty when it stops. "You removed me," I said. "I removed my funding. That seems balanced." "You can't humiliate us like this. People are flying in." "They can still attend," I replied. "There just won't be a ballroom." The line went dead. I didn't move. 8 minutes later, my mother called. She didn't scream. She whispered, "Hannah, what have you done?" The disappointment in her voice hurt more than Olivia's anger. "I withdrew from an event I was not invited to," I said. "You know that's not what this is, isn't it?" She sighed the way Olivia had earlier. "You're older. You're supposed to be understanding." Understanding, always that. When Olivia maxed out credit cards, when she cried over dress alterations, when she demanded peonies in February, I was understanding. But the moment I chose myself, I was destructive. "Mom," I said carefully, "would you pay $40,000 to attend a wedding you're banned from?" That's different. How? More silence. Then the truth slipped out. Mark felt uncomfortable, she admitted softly. He thinks you look down on him. I closed my eyes. I've met him 6 times. You're successful, Hannah. Sometimes that intimidates men. So that was it. I was too accomplished, too stable, too independent. And instead of encouraging her fiancé to grow up, they eliminated the variable that threatened him. Me. Olivia deserves her day, my mother continued. And I deserve dignity, I replied. The call ended without resolution. By midnight, my phone was vibrating nonstop. Cousins, aunts, family friends, some pleading, some accusing. One message from Rebecca read, "This is so dramatic. It's just one day. It's just one day." Funny how it's always just one day when it's your humiliation. By morning, Olivia had posted a vague Instagram story. Some people show their true colors when they can't control everything. Hundreds of heart reactions, support, sympathy. I didn't respond publicly. I didn't defend myself. I simply forwarded screenshots of the contracts, the ones clearly listing me as financial host, to Olivia and my parents. And then I added one final line. I will transfer the refunded balances to Olivia once she provides written confirmation that I am officially removed from all wedding responsibilities and future financial obligations. 10 minutes later, my father called. For the first time in my life, he sounded unsure. "What do you want?" he asked. Such a strange question. Not "why did you do this?" Not "are you okay?" What do you want? I thought about it. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want apologies screamed through tears. I wanted something simpler. I want acknowledgement, I said. Not gratitude, not praise, just acknowledgement that I am not a wallet. He was quiet for a long time. She didn't think you'd actually pull out, he admitted. And that was the real betrayal. They thought I would endure it. They thought I would swallow it. They thought I would pay for my own exclusion. That's what hurt. Not the uninviting, the assumption that I would accept it. That afternoon, Olivia texted. Not a call, a text. If I reinvite you, will you fix this? I stared at the message. There it was. Not "I'm sorry," not "I was wrong," a negotiation. Like I was a vendor. And in that moment, something inside me settled permanently, because I realized this was never about a wedding. It was about power. And for the first time in our lives, I wasn't giving mine away. Olivia didn't apologize. She negotiated. If I reinvite you, will you fix this? The message sat on my screen like a business proposal. No emotion, no remorse, just terms. For most of my life, that's what I had been to her. A solution, a safety net, a silent partner in every crisis she created. When we were children, Olivia was the golden one. She had soft curls and wide eyes and a laugh that made adults melt. Teachers described her as sensitive. Neighbors called her charming. I was described as responsible. That word followed me like a shadow. Responsible meant I cleaned up the kitchen after dinner. Responsible meant I worked part-time at 16. Responsible meant when Olivia dented Dad's car at 17, I helped pay for the repairs so it wouldn't stress her before finals. Responsible meant when she cried, someone fixed it. Usually me. I typed back slowly. No. 3 letters. The longest word I had ever said to her. Her reply came instantly. So you're really doing this? I put my phone down. Because for the first time, I wasn't doing anything to her. I was simply not rescuing her. By the next morning, the situation had escalated. Mark called. I almost didn't answer. But I was curious. He didn't greet me either. He started with accusation. You've embarrassed my fiancé. Interesting. Not you hurt her. Embarrassed. Reputation. Optics. Image. I withdrew financial support, I said evenly. I did not post about it. You blindsided us. I was blindsided first. He exhaled sharply. You've always looked down on us. Us, him and Olivia, united against the villainous older sister. Mark, I said calmly, I funded your honeymoon to Greece. Silence. I paid for the rehearsal dinner. Silence. I wired the down payment for the venue when your loan didn't go through. That last part made him stiffen. How do you know about it? Because the venue coordinator called me when your card declined. Because I've been cleaning up behind you for a year. But I didn't say that. Instead I said, because I signed the contract. He shifted tone. You're punishing Olivia for something small. Small. I wondered how he would feel if someone funded his entire wedding and then banned him from attending. Would that feel small? She chose you, I said quietly. That's fine, but choices have consequences. You're jealous, he said suddenly. I almost laughed. Of what? You're alone. You don't understand what it takes to protect a relationship. Protect. Such a powerful word to hide insecurity behind. I understand contracts, I replied, and self-respect. He hung up. That afternoon, something unexpected happened. The wedding planner emailed me privately. Subject, off the record. I just wanted to say, she wrote, in 10 years of planning weddings, I have never seen a financial host excluded from the guest list. I assumed it was a clerical error. It wasn't. I also wanted to let you know, she continued carefully, that there were discussions about shifting payment responsibility to Mark's family after the seating chart adjustment. I sat up straighter. Shifting responsibility. However, she added, they were unable to secure funding in time. Of course they weren't. The entire production existed because I made it possible, and they assumed I would continue to make it possible, even invisible. That's when something deeper clicked into place. They hadn't removed me because of space. They removed me because once the wedding was paid in full, I was no longer necessary, and unnecessary things are easy to discard. By Friday, the family narrative had solidified. I was unstable, controlling, overreacting. One aunt wrote me a long message explaining how real love doesn't come with conditions. I almost replied, real love also doesn't come with exclusion. But I didn't. Because something had shifted inside me. For the first time, I wasn't trying to win. I wasn't trying to be understood. I was observing. And observation is powerful. That evening, my father showed up at my apartment unannounced. He looked older than I remembered. Stress does that. Your sister is devastated, he said as soon as I opened the door. She still has the option to host her wedding, I replied. With what money? There it was, the real question. With her own, I said gently. He rubbed his temples. You know, she doesn't have that kind of savings. I held his gaze. I do. He looked at me differently then, not as the dependable one, as the separate one. You're breaking this family apart, he whispered. No, I thought. The family was built on me holding it together. And when I stepped back, it showed the cracks. I'm not breaking it, I said softly. I'm just not absorbing the impact anymore. He didn't stay long. As he left, he said something that lingered long after the door closed. She always believed you'd never let her fall. And that's when I realized the tragedy. She didn't think I loved her. She thought I was obligated to her. There's a difference. A painful one. The wedding date arrived anyway. No ballroom. No imported linens, no peonies. Instead, Olivia posted photos from a small backyard ceremony at Mark's parents' house. Plastic chairs, folding tables, a borrowed arch. She looked beautiful. She also looked furious. In every photo, her smile was tight, controlled, performative. People commented things like, intimate and perfect. Sometimes small is better. No drama, just love. I closed the app. Because the truth is, I wasn't angry anymore. I was grieving. Not the wedding, the illusion, the belief that if I gave enough, sacrificed enough, financed enough, I would be valued. But value that's bought isn't value. It's convenience, and convenience expires. 2 weeks later, I received a certified letter from Mark. I wasn't surprised, but I was curious. Inside was a formal request for reimbursement. He claimed emotional damages due to financial withdrawal resulting in reputational harm. I stared at the paper. Then I laughed. Not hysterically, genuinely, because the audacity was almost impressive, and that was the moment I stopped feeling like the villain. Because people who are wronged don't send legal threats when the money stops. People who feel entitled do. I forwarded the letter to my attorney, and for the first time since the seating chart, I felt something close to freedom. But here's what Olivia didn't know. Here's what no one in my family knew. 3 months before the wedding cancellation, I had made a decision. A quiet one. I had planned to step back financially from everyone, not out of anger, out of growth. Because somewhere between funding bridal showers and covering emergency loans, I had postponed something important. My own life. And sometimes, the moment people call you selfish is the exact moment you finally choose yourself. Mark never filed the lawsuit. My attorney responded with a single letter outlining the contractual structure, proof of ownership, and documentation of my removal from the guest list. We never heard from him again. But something else happened. Silence, not the explosive kind, not the dramatic family showdown kind. A slow, deliberate quiet. Olivia stopped calling. My mother stopped forwarding bridal photos. Group chats became inactive. For the first time in my life, no one needed anything from me. No emergency transfers, no last-minute deposits, no emotional cleanup. and the absence felt unfamiliar. I had structured my identity around being necessary, reliable, the one who fixes. When that role disappeared, I had to confront a question I had avoided for years. Who am I if I'm not rescuing someone? The first month was harder than I expected. Not because I missed the chaos, but because I missed the illusion of closeness. Helping feels like intimacy. Funding feels like involvement. But I had confused access with love. They had access to my money, not to me. That distinction took time to understand. 6 months after the canceled wedding, I booked a flight, not to visit family, not for a business conference, for myself. Italy. The trip I had postponed twice because Olivia needed something. I stood in Florence alone on a warm evening, watching the sun fade behind terracotta rooftops. No phone buzzing, no crisis, no obligation, just quiet. I remember thinking, this is what it feels like to belong to yourself. And it didn't feel lonely, it felt earned. Olivia reached out 9 months after the wedding. A short email, subject checking in. No apology, no acknowledgement, just surface-level updates about married life. A new apartment, a new job for Mark. She asked how I was. I read the message 3 times. In the past, I would have responded immediately, warmly, over-explaining, inviting reconnection. Instead, I replied simply, I'm well, I hope you are too. No more, no less. Because peace doesn't require performance. A year passed, then 2. We saw each other at holidays occasionally, polite, distant, like distant cousins rather than sisters. Something fundamental had shifted. She no longer asked for money. I no longer offered. And without that transaction beneath us, there wasn't much left to say. It was painful at first, but clarity often is. 3 years after the canceled wedding, my mother invited me to lunch. Just us. She looked older, softer, less certain. Olivia and Mark are struggling, she said carefully. I didn't ask how. I didn't need to. Financial instability leaves fingerprints. They're behind on their mortgage, she continued, and they might need help. There it was. The old rhythm, the familiar setup. I stirred my coffee slowly. I hope they figure it out, I said. My mother looked surprised. You're not going to step in? There was no accusation in her voice this time. Just habit. Expectation. I love her, I said gently. But I'm not her solution. The words felt steady, grounded, true. My mother nodded slowly. Not approving, not disapproving, just accepting. And that was new. Olivia called me herself 2 weeks later. Her voice sounded smaller than I remembered. Not dramatic, not entitled, just tired. We might lose the house, she admitted. I didn't rush to fill the silence. She continued. I know I can't ask you for anything. Another pause. But I wanted to say I understand now. I didn't speak. I thought you'd always catch me, she said quietly. And I never realized how heavy that was. That was the closest thing to an apology I would ever receive. It wasn't theatrical, it wasn't public, it wasn't performative, it was human. And strangely, it was enough. I hope you land on your feet, I said, and I meant it, without offering to be the ground. 5 years after the canceled wedding, I attended a ceremony. Not hers, mine. A small outdoor gathering by the water. Fewer than 30 people, no ballroom, no imported linens, no spectacle. Just intention. When I walked down the aisle, I didn't scan the crowd looking for approval. I didn't wonder who felt intimidated. I didn't worry about optics. I felt calm, chosen, not because someone needed me, but because someone saw me, fully. My sister attended. She sat quietly in the second row, she clapped, she cried, we hugged afterward. Not dramatically, not like a movie reconciliation. Just 2 women who had finally stopped mistaking obligation for love. Later that evening, as the sun set behind the lake, she said something I'll never forget. You were never trying to control me, she said. You were just trying to hold everything together. I smiled softly. And you were never trying to hurt me, I replied. You just didn't know how to stand without leaning. We didn't revisit the wedding. We didn't dissect the past. Some chapters don't need rewriting. They just need closing. People sometimes ask if I regret canceling it, if I would do it differently now. The answer is simple. No. Because the day she uninvited me, I learned something that changed the course of my life. If someone removes you from the table, you are allowed to take your chair with you. Not out of revenge, not out of pride, but out of self-respect. I didn't ruin a wedding. I ended a pattern. And in the quiet that followed, I finally began my own life.